guys, welcome back to the Welcome Table with Sydney
and Tatum.
And today we're going to be speaking with Kelly Perymon. Kelly is an undergraduate student at UCI who's majoring in environmental science and public policy. She is a second year. So she has dedicated most of her time to ending climate change and exposing the effects of environmental racism under the guidance of UCI Earth System Science professor Stephen J. Davis as a UC Carbon Neutrality Initiative Climate Action Fellow and an activist and hub coordinator with the Sunrise Movement, an organization dedicated to spreading awareness and widespread support for the Green New Deal. We are so excited to be speaking with you today. You have a lot of different roles. You have so much that you're passionate about. So we're just excited to get to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And before we get started, we do a little show and tell before the interview questions. And this week we'll go first. So I recently had a birthday, and my best friend here knows that I love to cook and that, you know, we love those vegan meals. So she got me this really cool book. It's called Afro Vegan, and it's just this collection of like veganified like African meals, and there's this like really beautiful pictures and like writing in here, and I've just been really having a good time like flipping through it and taking notes and finding out what I want to cook first, because like look how good that looks. Like, are you kidding? So very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to cook for me, to be
I
honest.
thank my best friend here for you know, giving me this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my item. And then what did you bring today?
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I picked some photos. I have like a photo wall behind me and I grabbed some off there. One is of me and my mom and the other one is of me and my dad. And my parents are just really important in my life. Like, I'm a person who values family a lot, which is like why I have this wall of photos of like people that are important to me. And especially with my mom, like we have a really strong relationship and she supports me in everything. And I literally call her about everything. I'm like, I don't know how to cook this. Like, is this food still good? Or like, I need help drafting an email before an interview. I called her before this. So she's like my main support structure and she means a lot to me. Yeah.
So awesome.
Really sweet. Yeah. No, family's so important. And it's good, you know, when you're at college to have that strong foundation where you can, you know, call back and, you know, always have an anchor that'll keep you afloat.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in because you were talking about your family and kind of want to know where you're from. So you came to UCI after attending Berkeley High School, so that's in NorCal. Why did you choose UCI to move to, and was there a cultural shift in your move from NorCal to Irvine?
Yeah, definitely. So I did grow up in Berkeley in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it is very different from here. It's definitely a little bit of a culture shock moving to Irvine. Berkeley has what they call like a Berkeley bubble. So it is very liberal. There's a lot of education around like social justice and even like environmentalism from a young age, which is like partly what sparked my love for activism really young. I got involved in high school with like walkouts and protests and stuff. And when choosing to go to Irvine, I actually attended the Black Family event, like the Black Family seminar.
Yeah, iRise is like the day before, but then they have the family event after. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like one that helped me make my decision. I got to meet like a lot of people there and I got to see like the support structure that they have for Black students and like tour the campus. And like the main decision, I guess, for me to go into UCI was like the really strong Earth and Science department, the beautiful campus, and then like getting to go and to meet like professionals and see other students and what they were passionate about. And I think like that really cemented my decision for UCI. So it's definitely been an interesting journey. It's a big shift going from the Bay to Irvine, but I've loved like every minute of it and I'm really happy I chose UCI. So
yeah. So you kind of knew from the get-go that you wanted to get into environmentalism as like a career path, basically.
Yeah, so I like got involved again in activism in high school with like walkouts and even like we did Black Lives Matter walkouts back then. And I kind of just always have had a passion for like nature and the environment. And I got to learn more about that, not only through activism, but also like through taking environmental science classes in high school. And I kind of decided that that's something I wanted to explore. So I went straight into the Earth System Science department as a first year and found a love for environmental policy and just have gone for it for the rest of my college experience, and it's been super rewarding.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Well, I'm happy that you enjoy it here and you made the move. How do you ever get like homesick? Because I'm from LA, so I'm able to drive back pretty like easily to home, and Tatum's from the OC, so she also drives back as well. So it's kind of, we're a little bit closer to home. How was that move like for you and your family? Like,
Yeah, I definitely first year I did get homesick. I think most people get homesick, but I'm really lucky to have like a good support structure. The environmental science and policy major is small, so I know like a lot of my professors really well, and I got to know like a lot of people in my classes, which was like super important. I feel like for me, especially like now online, like I know the people that are in my classes, and we had like a really solid group. So that definitely helped me, like being able to like talk to people and bond with people. And then also my sorority, I'm in Delta Gamma, and I live in the sorority house now, and having those people to just like be around all the time, to support you through everything, to have a shoulder to cry on, definitely like helped me with the homesickness. Yeah.
For sure, definitely. Yeah, and then I'm sure being a part of campus organizations that keep you busy within the realm of academics and then also within your activism is something that helps a lot as well. And so we wanted you to tell us about UCI from a climate activist standpoint and what student organizations or groups you're involved in on campus.
Yeah, sure. So as you kind of said in the introduction, I do a couple different extracurriculars involving environmentalism. So I am a UC Carbon Neutrality Initiative Climate Action Fellow. So I work for the Office of Physical and Environmental Planning. And I get to do a lot of cool stuff for that surrounding like campus sustainability, even like working on the website and getting to write articles. So that's super rewarding. And then I also do undergraduate research in the Earth System Science Department with Professor Davis. So that has been really fun so far. And I've got to do a lot of like rewarding work on a project through that. And then I also am part of UCI Sunrise as a hub coordinator. And that's like something that, then that I'm a hub coordinator, I do spend a lot of time on, but I think it is so rewarding, like being part of a small campus organization and really getting to do like outreach and plan events and do that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think there's like a couple other like environmental campus organizations also as well that I've like had interactions with, but that's just mainly what I do.
that's a lot. You do a lot on campus, so I'm sure you've been able to learn a lot, especially with your fellowship position. We wanted to know some of the things that you've learned and how your research has evolved or changed over the course of your time at UCI. And I know you're a second year, but so it's probably going to change a lot more in the 2 years before you graduate. But for now, just tell us the types of stuff that you've been learning and exposed to.
Yeah, definitely. So I got involved through research actually like kind of by coincidence. I interned for the Earth Reps program in the Sustainability Resource Center, and we had to do like an end of quarter project. And I actually focused on like Black students' views of climate change, like how important that issue was, and like the spectrum of everything else going on in the community. And it was a super small project. I only did like a couple interviews and a quick survey. But that led me into getting interested in like climate change research, especially through like social justice and equity based views. So that's how I got connected to Professor Davis. And I started this project, it's a small project at the time, that was just comparing like energy use to temperature data to basically see how much money SoCal residents would be spending on air conditioning as the temperature warms, so in future warming scenarios. And so I really got to start that project, and the further along I get, the more I'm going to get to integrate like social equity into that analysis. So looking at like income in like different areas and like how different communities will be affected by that increase in price. So it's definitely been slowly evolving, but like you said, I'm a second year, so I have a lot more time to really get in and analyze this project.
That's really interesting, Kelly. Like I'm like just thinking about it. I'm just like, Yeah, like being from somewhere where the environment around marginalized communities literally impacts the health. So it's just kind of like, wow, like that's awesome. I'm sure you're gonna learn a lot in that field.
Yeah. So
Yeah, thank you.
for sure. And we want to know on that note, why do you personally think it's important to embrace the intersection between environmental and social issues when it comes to policy changes?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's super important. If you look at the ways that climate change is affecting our society now, like it is so clear in so many ways that like BIPOC communities are being affected negatively disproportionately. And so I think that like when exploring environmentalism and climate change, like taking into account like those social issues and how these people are being affected, and also looking at the future and how we can reform our systems, not only taking that into account, but like evening the playing field, allocating resources fairly, so that as our climate is changing and as we are adapting our society to a more sustainable model, we can make up for those changes and take those disadvantaged effects into account.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for explaining all that and how everyone should be viewing like policy reform through the lens of social justice in a way. So thank you for that. For students who may be unfamiliar with some environmental works or studies like the Green New Deal, how would you describe it in terms that they can understand?
Yeah, so the Green New Deal is a resolution, and there's laws that are now, coming out of this resolution being written that can actually be passed in Congress. But the Green New Deal itself is just basically a document, and it explains a social and economic kind of almost an overhaul of society to like a more sustainable model. It includes a lot of things. Like it includes a transition to sustainable energy, which I think is most people are familiar with, like no more fossil fuels, so going to completely sustainable energy, and also how we make that transition. So like guaranteed jobs for workers that would lose their jobs from the fossil fuel industry, and rebuilding new sustainable energy and a sustainable infrastructure. And then also like healthcare, like universal healthcare. So making sure people are cared for as we're making not only this infrastructure change, but as climate change continues to get worse and affect people differently. Yeah, so it's a really comprehensive document that takes a lot of things into account, and also does take environmental justice into account in some sense.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Is there a climate change activist that is influential to you by chance on that topic?
Yeah, so the person I feel like I always say is Rihanna Gunn. So she actually like helped to write the Green New Deal, and she's a policy writer and analyst, and she's just super inspiring to me because she is like basically like changing the way I think a lot of people are like looking at environmental policy. She's like super influential. She's also, a Black woman in the environmental space. So she talks a lot about environmental justice and creating spaces for BIPOC activists and BIPOC policy workers in the environmental sustainability movement. So she's super inspiring to me, and she's super smart. So I'm like, definitely want to go into environmental policy and follow her footsteps.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. And maybe one day you're going to be able to meet her and work with her. So
I hope so.
yeah. No, and then on that note, we want to know, what are some personal and professional goals that you have for the future?
Yeah, so right now I'm planning to graduate early. So I'm looking at like master's programs right now in environmental management and policy. So just going like full steam towards grad school, hopefully getting a master's, and just going into environmental policy is like one of my main goals, to either write policy or policy reviews. So that's my main goal, and just getting more involved in the environmental movement, whether that's like in a government position or in somewhere of influence. But still have a long road towards there. So
Yeah, of course. And you have time and you're gonna figure it out and you're super passionate. I can see that coming through in the interview right now. So yeah, I'm happy to have met you and talk with you about the things that you want to do in the future. So
yeah, you're on.
thank you so much.
of course. And then last thing, kind of, okay, we promise we're totally not stalkers, right? But we must say that we, while we were kind of getting the questions together for this episode, we happened to stumble upon your Etsy account. And we can see that you're a fan of DIY Mickey ears. So we basically wanted to ask you, do you like Disneyland, do something? And how's like the pandemic like been since you're with your Disneyland like passion, I guess?
Yeah, I definitely have to unblur here so I can show you my wall. Yeah, so me and my mom like have a love for Disneyland together. It's like kind of become a family tradition for us. So I had an annual pass last year, and going to UCI and being so close to Disneyland was like amazing. I would go all the time, but they're finally opening back up. It was rough with the pandemic. I was definitely getting like homesick for Disneyland. But hopefully, if they open up and have good COVID numbers, then I can go and finally get to enjoy it again. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, of course, that's awesome. Well, thank you for agreeing to talk with us, Kelly. And we had such a great time and learned a lot about you, environmental justice and social change. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. We had such a great time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of The Welcome Table. This has been Tatum
and Sydney.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.